Thank you.
And that he's going to do them out of order too.
That's true. I mean, sequencing is important.
I know. I want to make sure I've got the answers for all of it myself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna change up some of the orders right now.
Go for it. It's great.
Because some of them were like really easy.
And add your own. Add new ones.
See?
I know.
Thank you.
Okay, so, and then she said, and she did her usual Betty Hart smile and, you
I
know,
don't know what you're talking about.
I know you don't. And I know that you don't have opinion.
First of all, Jada doesn't know anything about that life, so stop. But you do know that because of Jada, I got to move to Colorado.
I love
Yeah. Because she was going to use a supervisor of the experiential because she's been doing that work occasionally. While I was acting, she went and moved into a different position. And then her friend from elementary school owned my townhouse. So all roads lead to Jada. There you go. All roads lead to Jada. I don't like it. Yeah, that's not nice.
I don't
As long as it leads to Jada. All roads.
As well they should.
As well they should. It could be a continued character.
Jada, note to self, right? Note to self.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, those of you here and those of you online. I'm Abner Genesee, and I chair the workshop committee for Colorado Theater Guild. We're really happy that you're joining us here for this very special workshop. We're going to begin in about 5 minutes, give the folks who are coming in person to be able to come in and park and do all that great stuff. So at 7:05, we'll begin. Thanks for joining us.
Is it time? Oh, it's time. Okay. I'll tell you the rest of that story another time.
This is a good spot. Welcome to the CTG Unified Auditions Workshop. I'm Abner Genesee, and I chair Colorado Theater Guild's Workshop Committee. And we are thrilled that you are here with us tonight, both here in person and those of you joining us online. This workshop is scheduled for 90 minutes, and there will be a brief break. There will be a mixer with refreshments for our in-person guests directly after the workshop. And now I have an acknowledgement statement. The Colorado Theater Guild honors and acknowledges that the land on which we reside is the traditional territory of the Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho peoples. We also recognize that the 48 contemporary tribal nations that are historically tied to the lands that make up the state of Colorado. We honor elders past, present, and future, and those who have stewarded this land throughout generations. We also recognize that government, academic, and cultural institutions were founded upon and continue to enact exclusions and erasures of Indigenous peoples. May this acknowledgement demonstrate a commitment to working to dismantle ongoing legacies of oppression and inequities and recognize the current and future contribution of the Indigenous communities of Colorado. And without further ado, I'd like to throw it to our CTG board member, Mr. Steve Wilson.
All right. Hi, everybody. How's it going? Good to see you all, and welcome online as well. I'll try to kind of address the camera and the people that are here as well. My name is Steve Wilson. I am the chair of the CTG Unified Audition Committee. Been on the board for many, many years. With me is the amazing Betty Hart, who is the president of the CTG board. She will be chiming in as we do part one of this workshop, which will not have a break and will probably be more like 60 minutes pending your amazing questions. So please have those queued up. Great. So we're gonna talk about kind of the logistics of the actual auditions, which are coming up on May 4th and 5th. Then we're going to have a Q&A, and then we're going to do panel discussion, and then a Q&A, and then we'll have our mixer. So that will be word on that slide. You're like 8 slides behind, but it's all good. You know, don't worry about it. Yeah, keep going. Yeah. Who cares about that? Yeah, all right, good. That one's okay. Great. Next. All right. So what are the unified auditions? If you don't already know, they are. It's our 3rd annual audition where we bring theater producers and freelance directors together in one room with a group of actors, ideally to do a solid initial audition so that you can get some interest from theaters. Usually that's not going to lead to being cast, but it could absolutely lead to being called back or some interest in, will you come to the auditions? We see actors from across the state and theaters from across the state. I know Creed is signed up, and there are a couple of mountain theaters already signed up to come. We see both union Actors Equity and non-union actors all in this one large audition, and we are the largest single audition of our kind with multiple theaters in the state of Colorado. So we're really excited about that. Thank you. Great. So next slide and next slide. Great. So this year we have 2 days of auditions. We will be right here at the Aurora Fox. We won't be in this space. This space that the people are in right now, I know you online can't see it. We're in the studio theater. This is kind of our warm-up space. So actors, when they arrive, would arrive here and sign in. and get ready for the auditions here. And then the auditions will be in the main stage, which is a larger space just across the way. Sunday, May 4th from 12 to 8, and Monday, May 5th from 10 to 3:45. Those are in 4-minute audition slots. And we'll talk more about kind of those logistics as we go on. Great. Important things to note. You can go to the next slide, David. And go ahead and queue up. Yeah. So our one big change from last year is that we have a longer audition time. This was our most requested thing from actors last year. Last year was a 2-minute audition, and we've increased that to 2.5. I know that's not a lot, but we're sort of balancing the getting more actors in versus obviously seeing everyone's most robust audition. And again, I'll talk more about specifics later. Yes, freelance directors. So we started last year, and this year we've got even more. So we are, in addition to theater organizations signing up, we also have freelance directors. So freelance directors in town may be working for several theaters. They may be casting for a specific show or be on the docket to be asked to direct. So they may not even know what that is. So they kind of represent multiple theater spaces. All right, so the number one thing we get asked about is the cost. Yes, there is a cost. However, the cost is being a CTG member, which has many other benefits. Do you want to talk about those, or do you want to? Okay, great. So there's lots of benefits to being a member, and just so you can spread the word, if you are an actor, we know many actors don't have lots of dispensable funds. So if you are an actor that cannot afford the $50 fee to become a CTG member, as part of the application form, which is online, there is a whole thing about, do you need assistance? We can provide partial or full assistance. And while we can't guarantee anything, I wanted to point out that 100% of all requests last year were granted. So everybody that asked for that got it. So we want to make sure the word out there is that we are good. We do not want any financial barriers to any actor to be able to sign up for these auditions. All right, so general requirements, 18 years and older. This is another big request we get for younger actors. Someday maybe we'll be able to expand and do that, but currently we are adults only, 18 and older. You do need to be a member, as I mentioned. That's a $50 membership fee, but again, we have scholarships for that. You must disclose whether you're union or non-union. Obviously, the theaters that are auditioning need to know that as well. And you generally need to be available. This is a kind of murky one because I know some of you are not sure, but you need to be available for the next season just so that you're not kind of using it as just an educational experience, because obviously the theaters are coming to try to cast their seasons as well. Great. I think you can go on, T. David. Yes, and one more, and then the next slide. Great, so you can go on to the next slide. Or not. Great. Okay, so this one is a little confusing, and I'm going to hope to explain it really clearly. Who is eligible? So we have 2 categories of eligibility. Number 1, you need 5 performance credits. And by performance credits, we mean any professional, semi-professional, or community theater theatrical credit. So it does not include any educational credits. So that could be college, that could be high school, that could be a theater school that is, doing a show. No religious organizations, no improv comedy, no film, and no television. None of that counts toward the 5 credits. So that's one category. And the second one is that you are a recent college grad with a theater degree. We're trying to make sure that the auditions are open to folks that may not have the 5 credits, but have just trained in, a 3 or 4 year program and just gotten a degree. I had a question earlier. So I think we had originally said you have to have a degree like May 31, something like that. It's all good if it's a little earlier or later than that. May, June of this year is totally fine. Great. So what happens, so you submit an application online, and that is an application to be seen. And we have to, because we have limited slots, we have about, I think, 180, something like that. 190 slots this year. So if we get more requests than we have slots for, then we go through and try to prioritize underserved populations. Great. Pre-screening materials. Obviously you need a picture and a resume, a headshot and a resume. And then I had this little note because I'm the one that has to relabel all of them. We have a little labeling thing about to have your last name, your dot first name, CTG 25, and then HS if it's just a headshot, RES if it's just a resume, or HSRES if it's both combined in a single file, and either of those are fine. So the deadline is this coming Friday, the 21st, to get those applications in. Once we get that, we then we process how many they have. Some people may not meet the qualifications, so we eliminate those, and then we put folks into slots. Important to note that we cannot guarantee anybody a specific time slot. I mean, just try to imagine 250 folks all wanting, 11:15 on, Monday. Obviously, we can't do that. So we ask actors to say, yes, they're available for this day, or they're available, so either for the Sunday or for the Monday, and then we do assigned times. Then you will get an email from us that says you've been accepted and give you the time of your slot.
Can I add one thing about the slot?
Please. Oh, absolutely.
The slot will be in an hour-long window.
Yeah.
So as opposed to at 3:10, it'll be you're in the 3 to 4 p.m. window, and the time that you arrive determines where you go in that 3 to 4 p.m. slot. So if you get here a little sooner, you could be up first, or you could go, oh no, I just got here to warm up. I'm not really here. I'm invisible. And then you could go in a little bit later.
Yeah, and it sounds weird because I think, a lot of organizations have you like slotted in at, 11:05, but it actually works really well. So if you are late, it's really not an issue. Obviously, you won't get put at the front, but if you're super early and responsible, then you get put at the front of that little queue in that hour slot. It's worked really well for us because then we don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, this actor missed it and is not here, and so we're moving people around. So stage management, who's amazing, Connie Lane, we should mention, is both on our committee as well as our lead stage manager, and is amazing in helping a team of amazing stage managers organize the process that'll happen in this room in early May. Parking, everyone that's in this room has already experienced parking here. Generally, it's pretty good. There's parking in the back. There's parking in the front of this theater as well. There's parking along the side. There's also parking in the library lot, which is kind of kitty corner to the back. And if those are full, then it's street parking. But yeah, I would allow a little extra time. I mean, again, we don't have 200 actors here at the same time. We're obviously always slotting folks in, but just allow a little extra time for that. Right, actors check in here, as we already said. Everything is accessible. So there's a ramp into the theater here. And then this level that we're on right now is the stage level for the main stage where actors will be. So there's no steps to navigate in order to audition. As Betty already mentioned, yes, we're in 1 hour blocks again, based on the time that you arrive. Right, so I already mentioned this, the audition limit is 2.5 minutes. So that's the sort of meta part. The important part for actors, and not all theaters do this, but I like that we've done this. Actors have complete agency on how their pieces fit together. So you could do 2 monologues in 2.5 minutes. You do 1 monologue in 2.5 minutes. You could do a monologue and a song and a monologue. You can do it however you want. If you want to lean on something and make it a little longer, but the length of the audition, and the audition starts when you say the first line of your piece. It doesn't start for your introduction, which we ask to be literally, my name is Steve Wilson, and you go. There's no numbers. We talked about that, but that gets crazy if the numbers are out of sequence, you know what I mean? So no numbers, you just say your name, You don't need to introduce your pieces or anything because management will have captured that for all the producers. Producers are getting your information on a Google Sheet so they can see all that other information there. And we do that not because we want to not have you have your full slate, but because we're trying to move things along as quickly as is possible. Great. There will be an accompanist. So the one thing that you do have time, and this does not count against your 2.5 minutes, so you'll be able to go to the accompanist and do a brief explanation of your music. We ask that music be easy page turn and well labeled. That's a good thing to do all the time as well. All right. Anything I forgot?
No, but we did have a question from our Zoom audience.
Great.
Question
Hi,
was,
Zoom audience.
if you've already submitted several weeks ago, but your professional CV has been updated since then, additional credits, experience, etc., should we email another resume?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So there is an email contact, which, off the top of my head, ctgunifieds@gmail.com, I believe, but double check that on the website. Just email that. I will get that email. And if you just say, hey, this is my name and I'm updating my resume or picture or both, let me know and I will get it uploaded to the drive. Good question. Great. Any studio audience?
Another question was,
all right.
do we have to use the accompanist?
The short answer to that is yes.
If you're
Yes, you
singing.
do. If you're singing, yes. No acapella, no your own instruments, even though we love that everybody has lots of skills, but that's part of kind of keeping it uniform as well. Yes.
Awesome. Now you're welcome.
Great. All right. Studio audience, any questions about logistics for the auditions? Yes.
When it comes to the 2 requirements you were talking about, the 5 theatrical credits or the recent does it matter what kind of theater degree we have, like is it technological theater or educational theater, or it should be based in performance?
Boy, that's an excellent question. I don't think anyone's ever asked that before.
No,
I think it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, if the question was, if your degree is not in performance for theater, but tech theater or another theater-related discipline, can you be qualified under the recent grad? And the answer is yes, you can. Good question. Yes.
So it's pretty common then for recent graduates to come and audition?
Repeat the question for.
Yes, sorry. Is it common for recent grads to audition? Yes. I mean, I don't know the percentage, but I would say 10 to 15%, maybe a little more. Betty and I are super love young actors, and the performance credit obviously is to sort of make sure folks that are just kind of just getting into it, that we want to see this body of experience, though we feel like the 4 years of college is going to equate to that. And we knew that recent grads would not have the performance credits, but B, likely want to be seen because you're right out of school. Tangentially, a little story. My daughter is graduating from college, this particular with a theater degree. Thank you so much. Right, so I'm so delighted that Betty and I, provided that opportunity. So we think it's a great opportunity for recent grads, again, to be seen in a large area. And obviously, you're again. What you're auditioning for is to sort of have a big be seen. Oh, and I forgot the most important thing. So super important. This amazing guy named Ray Bailey, who is the premier theatrical videographer in town, will video every single audition. And why that is important is because we cannot guarantee that every busy artistic director like Jada is going to be able to be at the whole 12 plus hours of the audition. So it's possible she might be able to send some of her staff. It's possible she will come for part of it, but it's possible they might miss some. But they have a record of all of the video auditions that they can go back to and refer to. And I know that both myself and other theater producers have gone back to that well of those video auditions just because they're very well done and sort of uniform. So your audition kind of lives beyond beyond just your 2.5 minutes here in May. Yes,
Is there any way for the actor to receive a copy of their video?
good question. And the answer is no, not yet. Betty and I are working on that, so maybe. We'll see if we can make that work. I don't know if you have any new intel, but we would like to be able to do that. It's really just sort of the logistics of the whole operation, but
Yeah, the
good
short
question.
answer is, it's been a dream to make that happen and simply to ask actors to pay a nominal fee because we're going to have to do some work to get it to you. And having you ask that question gives further credence to the fact that this is a desire. So we'll see what we can do for this year.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, I love that. All right, we'll take a, yes.
The theaters that are there for the unified audition, are they mainly for musicals, plays?
Excellent question. The answer is, all over the place. So you've got, again, Town Hall was there, traditionally does musicals. The Fox here does a mix of musicals and straight plays. Jada's theater is primarily straight plays, but everyone is represented. I work for a company called Candlelight, which does just musicals. So there is a big mix of producers and directors. Yeah.
We have 3 questions that I'd like to get to before, if that's
Yeah,
okay. One is, can you please repeat how the audition process goes once you're on stage? So basically what that is you will come on stage. If you are singing, you will immediately walk over to the accompanist and talk to them about the rhythm of your song, where you're going to start, what words you're going to say, whether you're going to start with the song after you introduce yourself, or whether or not at the end of the button of your scene, you're going to go ahead and then sing. You'll work on that with them. Then once you're done, including singing a little bit of it, then you'll come to the center of stage. You'll say, "Hi, my name is," and then you'll take a moment and you'll begin. So that is the process. And in that moment, you will do either your monologue by itself, your song by itself, your monologue and your song, and then you're done.
Or 2 monologues.
Right, or 2 monologues. And if it goes well, then at the end, you're done. If, however, you did not time your piece properly, especially for laughter, in case you're funny, and so you had to hold for laughter, but you didn't build that in, then you will hear the lovely, kind, dulcet tones, probably of Rick Morella saying, "Thank you." And then that will be the conclusion of your piece. So ideally, you will get to end it on your terms if you do that lovely work ahead of time. If not, you will get a very kind, very gracious thank you. And you will have a whole room full of people be like, "Oh," because we wanted to see the end of your piece. So that's a great question. Thank you.
Well said.
I've got 2 more in. Apologies if this is a repeat question or if it was asked and answered. I joined a bit late. When will the audition appointments be going out? Which we didn't cover.
I briefly mentioned it, but the audition appointments will be going out early to mid-April. So I think the Ides of April is the end of that window. But yes, again, the deadline is 21st. We've got to kind of organize everything. We have a panel of folks that have to review all of the resumes and pictures, make sure the material's all right, as well as that the 5 performance credit or the recent grad requirements have been met. And then after that, we also have to do the scholarship piece of that, which is a whole nother spreadsheet piece, as well as the appointments, which is more difficult than one might imagine. Yes.
Great. And then this question was a new question as well. Do the 5 performance credits mean the whole production or individual performance nights? For example, is being in 3 shows for Wicked count for 1 or 3 credits? I'll take it. Do you want to?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, it's 1.
Yeah.
If it's 1 production.
That's what I would have said exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about how many productions of Wicked you've been in. So if you did Wicked at the DCPA and for Performance Now and for Vintage, those are 3 credits. Same show, but credits.
Right.
That is different, however, from if you did 3 performances for 1 production company of Wicked, that is 1 credit. So you don't get to count the number of shows, performance nights you did. that isn't it. It's one company of that counts as one credit. So great question, whoever you are, thank you. And then you were kind enough to wait.
Yeah, so I didn't quite get this. We're not slating with our materials or our pieces.
Correct.
They are being recorded somehow?
Yep.
Okay, how is that?
So when you check in, the stage manager will ask you that, and that'll be on our spreadsheet. Again, we tried to envision every possible thing we could trim in order to make it efficient, but producers have access to that information. So I know that might feel weird, especially if you're, want to distinguish between something classical or what have you, but we do have that information again, which is captured by stage management. Yes.
What does it mean to be a CTG member and what comes with that?
I'll defer to Madam President, but yes.
The question is, what does it mean to be a CTG member and what comes with that? Thank you for asking. First of all, being a member of the Colorado Theater Guild means that you are both financially supporting all of the beautiful things that we do. For example, no doubt you've probably used our website at some point in time. That website costs money. And so our members are helping to finance that. It also helps us to do the advocacy work we do, workshops. You saw Abner earlier. We do anywhere from 5 to 9 different workshops throughout the year. All of that goes, and CTG members get that absolutely free of charge. People who are not members, however, get charged a nominal fee. Often there's food. Perhaps you've noticed that the cost of living and that food has increased in pricing. That also goes to help with that. So we have advocacy, we have workshops, we have the Henry Awards. Thank you very much. And so that helps to be able to get recognition. And I'll say this up front, we know every award show on the planet has critics. We're okay with that. Feel free, it's still a free country. But what it does do is allow for us to be able to recognize the incredible, vast excellence of this Colorado theater landscape. And that is true whether you're in a tier 2 theater and it's community theater and your budget is under $500,000, or if you're in a tier 1 theater and your budget is above $500,000. And in fact, we have awards for both tiers. So now they do not have to compete head to head, although there are people in this room and no doubt watching who say, art is art, and it all rises. But we're still doing it now. So everyone gets that. So those are just some of the things that you do. We also have 2 people who are contracted to work for us. So we have the incredible Barbara Thomas, who coordinates all of the Henry judging. So every single theater that is a member can say, if there are 8 performances of their show, that they want judges to come out. And 9 judges for each show must be sent out. That cannot unfortunately happen through magic, except the magic of Barbara Thomas. So your fees also help to pay her to be able to do that great work. And then the website, which doesn't just have audition notices, it also has job postings as well as theater. What's happening in theater throughout the state? You just go to www.coloradotheaterguild.org and you can find that out. And so Shannon is the one who is updating all of those posts day after day, week after week. So that's just a small sum of what you get by being a member. But the number one thing that I think is that it also allows you to be able to say, I'm investing in this Colorado theater community. I'm not just giving it lip service. I'm actually helping other people who perhaps can't afford it right now to be able to access that website, to be able to find out what shows are playing around the state, to find out what jobs have just gotten posted. So many people take advantage of that and they don't know, because I've seen it happen in other cities, including Atlanta. It can go away. And then there's a void. And all of these things that are centralized to make it easy for performers and producers to be able to connect can disappear. So you're helping to keep the fiber of connection for Colorado theater community.
Yes, well said. I would also add, we are the only organization like this in the state of Colorado. We do our best to try to represent to the best of our ability the vast theater community, such as it is. The Henry Awards, yes, awards have their critics, but it's also about recognition. So no one else is really recognizing the work in this way you should come to the Henry Awards. It's a beautiful night, lots of theater people. It's great. But
we have 2 more questions online before we go to anyone else here. Someone asked, how recent is a recent graduate? Is being a graduate between 2020 to 2023 and having less than 5 credits, does that still count?
If it's 2023, yes, it's 2 years is the recent grad time frame. So if your degree or yes is 2023, then you would qualify under the.
But 2020 or 2021, no,
Correct.
unfortunately. And then someone said, can actors be a part of the audience at the Unifieds? Or would you all consider that sometime in the future for our learning purposes, not to judge or be a weirdo is why I ask. I read the questions. The answer is no, unless you were working as an intern, perhaps for a theater company, and you were helping them with the audition process. That would be the only way for you as an actor to be able to sit in on the auditions. And then how do disability accommodation requests work for applicants? Do we put that in with our application or somewhere else?
Yeah, it's a great question. There is a note section to the application, so if you have any special needs, I would love for you to put it in there, and then we can contact you in the very unlikely event that we couldn't accommodate something, but that's a great place to put anything special in that note section at the end.
And being a member of the disability community is one of the underrepresented categories that if indeed we have to sort, then you are going to indeed rise to the top.
Exactly.
Other questions?
Yeah, go ahead. That's why we're here.
I have two.
Great, no problem.
If you become a CTG member, is that something you'd want to put on your resume that like you're a part of the Colorado Theater Guild?
It's not necessary from a producer's standpoint. They just want to know how to reach you and what credits and any special skills or education you have.
Okay, and then last thing, if like you're a really strong dancer and you want to highlight that, is that something you can put in that 2 minutes? Or
It's a great question. Oh my gosh, we've talked about this. The short answer is no. It does not mean you can't add a piece to your movement part of your monologue. We don't specifically have a sort of dance section. I mean, could you improv a dance? If you really wanted to do that, you could. I would encourage you not to do that just because for the folks that are looking for dancers, they're going to evaluate your singing skill and your acting skill, and then they're going to ask you to come to a callback. If it's a big dance show, then they would want to see you in that context. We've talked about either a separate dance thing. It's just getting all the folks that do musicals kind of to be able to organize that. We haven't really figured that out, but it's a great question.
I also just add that if you put it in your resume, in your dance, training, producers will definitely take notice of that. We have one more thing I was supposed to mention in response to your question about other benefits for CTG. Thank you, David. We also have something that very few people in the community know about, which is we created a directory. Let's just say that some of you are multi-hyphenates. You aren't simply one thing. You're not just an actor. You're not just a director. You're not just a designer. You do multiple things, but maybe people only know you for one thing. The directory gives you the opportunity to market your skills and be able to have people from around the state who are searching for your skills to be able to find it and then contact you. So that is another thing that we did to help. And then also there are student memberships for those who are in high school or college. And then there are also senior memberships for those who are over the age of what?
62.
Thank you, over the age of 62. And so you have a discounted rate if you are in either of those categories.
Sweet. All right, other questions? Excellent.
There's one more.
Okay, great. Okay. That's why we're here.
Our
Good.
online people are asking and we're grateful. It
Yeah.
says, where is the camera usually placed at the auditions?
It's usually in the theater space in the house.
In the center.
Yep, in the center of the house, so it's not on stage. It doesn't block you from the view of the audience. Ray's fantastic. He's usually kind of midway down the house. It's, I think, 250 seats. So yeah, the actors generally, I don't think, notice it. Yeah, good question. Yes.
Do you have an approximate number of how many companies are represented?
it?
It's a good question. Last year we had about 30. We're, I think, tracking at around 20 right now. We have to get on the phone to get all of our peeps, in order to come. As soon as we have that list will go up before everybody gets notified about your time slots and all of that stuff. So actors will know. That'll be on the website in a couple of places once it's ready. Yep. All right. Anything else? Great. I'll turn it over to the amazing Betty Hart.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Thank you. Well, we now get to have our panel conversation where you all get to ask questions in addition to me getting to ask questions of these incredible individuals. And I'll just say, if it's a question that you have, it's worthy of being asked. So please don't take the time to judge yourself. You came out or you're paying attention right now because you want to know information. So please make your voice heard. As you all can see, Leah is sending me the questions. So when you see me looking at my phone, I could be looking at questions we already have or questions that are coming in. So we'll continue to toggle back and forth. But first, let's bring out our panelists and I will get to introduce all of them to you. We will start off with Jada Dixon. A director, a playwright. She's dedicated to harnessing the transformative power of storytelling. You may also know her as the producing artistic director at Curious Theater Company, where she strives to create dynamic, thought-provoking experiences that resonate deeply with audiences. Jada Dixon, welcome. All right, Leanne Sherlock, come on over. You might recognize her as a highly sought after professional director, music director, teaching artist, actor, and voice teacher and coach. You might also know her as the person who directed the Henry Awards last year. And her passion is working with aspiring young actors through educational theater, and she works to help make theater accessible for all. Welcome, Leanne. Thank you. And you already got to know Steve Wilson, but you didn't get to hear what he does. He is an award-winning director, actor, teacher, arts advocate, and administrator, serving multiple arts organizations in multiple capacities. He's currently the executive artistic director for Center Stage Theater Company in Louisville, Colorado. Is it Louis or Lou?
Louisville.
Thank you.
Yep.
Colorado versus Kentucky. All right, Louisville, Colorado. He's also a very, very active freelance director. He currently has a production of the book club play running at Theater Silco, and he is in rehearsals right now at the Candlelight for Bright Star. Steve Wilson. All right. I have a few questions. I'm going to start off with these individuals, and then after I get through a couple, I will pause and then give you and our online family an opportunity to add in. If you don't have any, I have plenty, but I have a feeling based on what we've been, y'all will have some as well, which is great. Great. All right. So my first question for you all is, what are your thoughts about whether an actor should look at the auditors during an audition?
Absolutely not.
Nope. All right, Jada, tell us why they should not look at us.
No, I mean, the rule of thumb in theater is you play for the back row. And that should be the same for any audition. We can see you, we're watching you, we're listening, we're engaged. But playing towards us also, you play small. And I don't think anyone wants that in an audition, so play for the back row of the theater space. If it were a small space like this, beautiful theater space, you would just play to, what is relevant to the space that you were in. If it's where an audition that's in a dance studio, you would play to, the back wall of that dance studio. So you just accommodate accordingly or adjust accordingly.
And it's like the fourth wall, you don't break that. And that's what happens when you do that. And you can draw us in by your performance without having to look at us. And that's the hope, so absolutely play for the back of the house relative to its size. Absolutely.
Yep, well said. I mean, when actors have asked me this, I'm like, so I'm here wanting to cast you, and I'm making notes like, wow, great, whatever, great connection. But if you're looking at me, I used to be an actor and sometimes do that, but I want to engage you. So I'm like, okay, so I'm looking at you, and then all of a sudden you're done, and I've made no notes. So you're doing yourself a disservice by trying to do that. But absolutely agree.
Nice. All right. In one sentence. Uh-oh. What is your number one piece of audition advice for a performer?
I would say, in one sentence, be yourself.
You look at that right there. Look at this. Look at that right there.
There you go.
I would define that maybe smidge.
Please, go ahead.
Just let your personality shine through.
Yes.
Do you have a sentence?
I'm in awe of that. Yeah, I think that's great advice. I mean, I guess I would say enjoy the performance. Enjoy the 2.5 minutes of the one-person show that is you. I mean, that is great advice to be yourself for sure, but have fun performing.
Nice. Recently on Instagram, Audra McDonald was asked this question because she was on, I can't remember which talk show, but she was on a talk show and there was literally a young person in the audience who had just gotten off the bus to be in New York City. And the question was, what's the advice you would give? And it was beautiful. She said, know that you are a solution to a problem. Ooh, that's what she said. Know that you're a solution to a problem, because the problem is, who are they going to cast? And she said, the solution is you. And she said, the only way for you to be that solution is to be yourself. So look at that. There you go. Put that out there.
That's fun.
Nice. Awesome. Okay, great. I will pause for a moment and see if you all have a couple questions before I go back to these. Yes, sir.
What is the most common serious mistake actors make in auditions?
Okay, we're going to repeat that question for the people online. What is the most common mistake actors make at auditions?
My brain goes to forgetting that the entire process is taken into consideration for the audition. Meaning Steve just gave you the details and the logistics for the audition. You have 2.5 minutes. You're only slating your name. You're giving instructions to the accompanist if you're using that. Your monologue, your piece starts with the monologue. Like, if you can't follow those instructions, that to me is a huge mistake, because they've laid it out so well. They've given you all the tools necessary. And for me, as a theater producer, leader, director, I then say, wow, I thought they laid those out really clear and clean. Is it that you weren't listening? Could be that you're nervous, but also you have to prepare for that, right? So knowing that other pieces pay attention, which also means you are kind to that stage management team like you have never been kind to anyone else in your life, not in a fake way, but in a true, authentic way, because stage managers see everything. And when anyone, including everyone up here, wants to go cast, they might say, hey, stage manager Fred, have you ever worked with that person? Right? So how you show up gets shared. We will also reach out to other theater leaders. Hey, I see that so-and-so worked for you guys. Can you tell me a little bit about how that was? Right? So just making sure you're, bringing your best self.
You're prepared, and all of the things you just said, that goes into the preparation. Absolutely, because your audition starts way before we see you on that stage.
Yeah, I actually say to young actors, like, when you're auditioning, you're playing multiple characters. Obviously, any character you're doing in an audition or you're playing, but you're also playing yourself on a very good day. So even if you just broke up with your significant other the night before or 15 minutes before, when you walk into that building, like Jade is so right. If actors are mean to stage management or people, we know immediately. And while, when you've done this a long time and you get older, you absolutely always want great actors, but you also want great people in your rehearsal room. So, and that's a little bit of what Jada said with us getting on the phone if we didn't know somebody. But yeah, I mean, the relaxing thing is hard. again, trying to have fun, but I'm not sure that there's a number one, but that is really good advice to just go back and take a look at all the technical weird stuff for whatever the specifics of the audition are, because everyone's got little different parameters. So you're really clear about that. One of your best friends, if you don't already have them, is the stopwatch in your phone. So do that for your piece. If it's 2.5 minutes, I would absolutely encourage you to give yourself 2 minutes and 15 seconds, just in case you get nervous or if there's something weird. The other common mistake, which we hear about afterwards, is when music is not marked well for an accompanist and the accompanist doesn't know where to stop, or you haven't done that part. So again, go to Staples and do whatever you need to do to make sure your materials are super clear.
All that to say, know that we are rooting for
Yes,
you.
please, yes.
Yes, we want you to follow all those things, and we are rooting for you, which is also why you're given these pieces to follow and be lined up, right? Because we want you to show up as your best self.
Yeah, we've been where you have been, or where you are.
Or continue to be.
Or continue to be, because I still act as well. I mean, I'm a music direct, but I also am an actor. And the music, oh, yes, my word. Please don't bring your music just like laid out and it all falls off the keyboard. Yeah, so be prepared, be prepared.
The other big mistake that I would add is that I think every actor on the planet has done it. And the ones who get work are the ones who overcome it. Is the biggest mistake is psyching yourself out before you go in. I like to say a simple truth. When you walk in, you already don't have the job. And when you leave, you already don't have the job. So that's not the point. The point is what you do while you're there. My personal goal is to leave a favorable impression, because I can't control if I am too tall or too short or too much or too little. I can't control the other variables, but I can leave an impression that causes a director to say, I want to work with her sometime. That I can control. And I've done it. When you psych yourself out beforehand, either because you want it too badly, any of that stress, then what happens is the one thing we were responsible for, which is showing up as your authentic self, doesn't happen. And instead they get a shell. They get your representative, and your representative is never as good as you. So the biggest mistake is not actually showing up, even though you went on stage.
I would say it's part just connected to that too. Embrace the jitters, embrace the nervousness, because it's gonna happen. So just know that it's gonna be there, right? Be like, oh, yep, I'm feeling that thing in my belly, or oh my God, my hand is shaking. Like, okay, look at that, my hand is shaking. Cool, I'm gonna rock with that anyway, right? Like, know that it's gonna happen, and it's always gonna happen. And then I would encourage people afterwards, you can't control, as Betty said, what happens. So plan something for yourself. Go get a coffee, go see an art show, go to the movie, go somewhere, because the mental torture that we all typically do after that will just send you into spirals, right? It's going to happen because we're human, just like the jitters are going to happen because you're human. But if you can try to mitigate it in some way to take care of yourself, I do think that is also really important.
Yeah, I just want to reinforce what Jada said before, which is so important. We love you. We love actors. We want to work with you. We want you to be good. Sometimes we get this like, we're behind a table and, we're judging you, or 8.3, whatever that is. No, we want an amazing play or amazing season. We are your advocates. We love you. We hope these four people generally are going to give you love across the table to the best of our ability to do that. But know that there's no animosity on the other side of the table.
I love auditions. I love to be and watch new talent and people that I've never met before, and people that I have see something else that they bring to the table. I mean, it's wonderful. It's a joy.
All right, Leanne, I'm going to ask you this first. Okay. And then Steve, you want to chime in. This comes from our online family. For musical auditions at the Unifieds, do you recommend leaning Golden Age or contemporary music theater?
I would say it depends. I certainly would do not do something from a hit Broadway show. A lot of those things are done a lot. Wicked, Frozen. I would steer clear from that. If you could, I'd be careful with Sondheim, because you don't know who your accompanist is. So if you hand them a Sondheim piece,
It may work out and it may not. I did have an audition once and it didn't work out and I kept going because he couldn't. And I was like, well, I'm just going to keep going. Not really the best way to go about it. So I would be careful on that. I would also choose something that fits you. Okay, you're not, I couldn't sing something that an 18-year-old, the character's 18. That would make no sense whether I can sing it or not. That would not make sense. So know who you are, know what you're doing in that realm. I don't know. I mean, there's lots, I could list a whole bunch of pieces that I would prefer not to hear. But that will come later. Yes, I'm not going to do that, but yes. Anything you would add?
Yeah, I would just say that circles back to Leanne and Jada's first answer, right? Be yourself. What do you like? Do you like Golden Age? Are you Brigadoon fan or do you, whatever you like, but as Leanne said, make sure that with whoever is assisting you vocally, that that's a piece that shows you well, shows your voice well, and all that. But I don't think it matters. Although I will also say the number one question I get asked is, well, would you like me to do my song first or my monologue? And I always have the same answer, which is always do your best piece first. We are busy. We are trying to make notes. Usually in an audition, we're going to make a quick decision within 15 or 20 seconds of your audition. That's just how it works. Lead with your best. Don't, like a musical, put your big blockbuster thing at the end. That's my advice.
Okay. Also from our Zoom land, hold on. If someone does an audition in part in a fluent language aside from English, does that impress you or does that cause you to be disconnected? Someone's fluent, they speak in their other language as part of it. How does that impact you? That's a great question.
That is a great question. I mean, I guess my first answer would be if you are as fluent in the language for whatever show I am directing, assuming that's English, if you're fluent in that and in another language, that's good. I would say for this audition, the Unifieds, I would think that would be a little limiting. Weirdly, I directed a play here at the Fox years ago called Chinglish, which is like a third of it is in Mandarin Chinese. So that was important in that audition, that we kind of knew what those language skills are. As you're choosing your material, start with be yourself. But for this kind of audition where you're going across the board, you want a general, you want the most general take you can on material. While certainly there are companies, Tony's company and other companies that do work in other languages, I think that's probably rare.
And list that on your.
Yeah, I was going to say, it could be on your resume. That's a great way to give us that without performing that, if you will. Great. Yes.
Yeah, I was just wondering, in the application process, are there things that you might see or might not see that would just be an immediate red flag? Which you might discard?
The question is, are there red flags that are clearly seen in the application process that would cause a person to be discounted? The number one thing would be lying on your resume. The people who are adjudicating the resumes are a part of the theater community, go see theater, know how to look at a website. And so when we see a show and you put down Curious Theater Company, and we've been looking at Curious Theater Company shows for 10, 15 years, and they've never done that show, that's a problem. So, and people do it. So that would be a discount because then you're not going to get credit for that number. And if you only had 5 credits and one of your credits is false, then you won't make it in. So that would be something that I would note as an example. Anything else that you would say that happens in the application process?
That's a good one. Again, we don't always know. I mean, I think just sloppy formatting on a resume, things like that. I mean, again, there are lots of ways to get assistance. Obviously, there's people that you can talk to, but there's Microsoft's got templates. So just have care in the materials that you send, which for us really is that resume.
Yeah, I mean, it's attractive, clean, concise. It's very easy to read.
that kind of thing.
I would also, so folks know, the producers, the theaters that are in the room, we don't see the application. That process is handled on the Colorado Theater Guild side. What we do see are your resume and headshot. And every time someone hands us a headshot and resume, what's the first thing we look at? Headshot and then you. And if this looks like it was done 15 years ago, we have a little thing that happens in our neck. We get a little uncomfortable. Now, we're still gonna flip it over and look at the resume, but now we're really caught up in this and who we're seeing on the stage. So you have to please make sure you have an updated headshot and a nice, clean, simple resume.
And I would also add, not super glammed up. Again,
it should be true.
Obviously, it can be kind of general spree makeup and all of that, but yeah.
But also not like your best friend took the picture in your backyard.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
Was it something that you saw from performers at the audition process?
I heard part of it. Could
No
you?
worries. I was wondering, is there anything that you wish you saw from performers more in the audition space?
Okay, the question is, what do we wish we would see more of from performers in the audition space? That's unifieds and auditions. Just what would you like to see more of?
That's a good question.
I think for me, the thing that just, that bubbled up, and see, I just did the thing, mistakes happen because we're human. You don't have to apologize, just show us your resiliency and adaptability to continue to move forward, right? Make that work for you. And as you prepare, and as Steve has said, you time yourself, so I know, okay, I'm at 2:15, to allow for laughter, to allow for if I make a mistake and I want to slightly rewind. Like, you are a human, so it could happen, and that is okay. We want to know that you have what it takes, should a mistake happen, that you have what it takes to continue moving forward.
If you don't let that mistake become another mistake because you're so focused on that mistake, it just becomes a snowball. And so no apology, just show that grit, that you can get through that. And that's a lot better than apologizing or starting over, that sort of thing.
You do have permission, and it's happened. People say, is it okay if I start
And they
over? And every single time, because we're rooting for you, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. We really want to see you. The other thing I would say I would love to see more of is joy. There's something magnetic about performers when they are in their zone, and it captures the room. And I'm here to tell you that love of performing, when it comes through, it doesn't matter if we are tired. If it doesn't matter if we are hungry, it is like a wave, and it will touch every single person watching. And when they're done and they leave, there is a buzz in the room because we just watched magic happen. And that's all any of us want. So that's what I want more of. I want to see each of the people who come forward to be doing their work with joy, not judgment, joy.
And I think one of the ways to get to that is to master your monologue or master your song. Master it. That means you are rehearsing and preparing with intention and specificity. So it means, where are my breath moments for the song? What are my objectives in this? Know my arc. I got to know this character inside and out. And I've chosen a piece that lets me, my personality, shine through, that it complements me for where I am at today as the artist I am, and that you have rehearsed it and rehearsed it and rehearsed it like nobody's business. So that when those jitters show up, because they're going to, when you walk in here and you're like, oh my God, so-and-so's here. Oh my God, so-and-so's here, because that's what I do, right? I still know, but I've got my piece because I'm so prepared. And so all I need to do is find that, and then I can show in that room with joy because I'm sitting in confidence, right? I'm sitting in comfort because I know I have to have that solid.
It's nice to look at auditions at your performance. You get to perform for us for 2 minutes and 15 seconds.
what a joyful thing right there, that you get to do, you have the privilege of doing that. And we in turn have the privilege of listening to you and hearing you and seeing all this wonderful preparation that you've done and who you can be and who you can show us in that 2.5 or so minutes.
You have to take us on that journey.
Yeah. Because I want you to draw me in. I want you to, not by looking at me, but by what you're performing, by being joyful, because that does, it really, that's who I want to work with. Absolutely, that's who I would like to work with. So.
Yeah, I mean, I so agree with everything Jake said. The prep part is important, and that you're not like, oh, I'll just grab this out of a book and, the day before, a couple of days before. Make sure you know you're going to be nervous, but what Jake said, which I want to highlight, is the arc. So what we want to see is some sort of transformation from beginning to end. I know it's not long. If your piece is a minute long, set 60 seconds, it's a short time to have some sort of character arc, whatever the piece is. If you cannot identify a good change for that person from the beginning to the end, then throw that monologue in the trash and do something else. Same with a song.
You could do the same thing.
Oh my gosh, songs, it's a pet peeve of mine that, soloists in music, you have a gorgeous voice, but if you're not acting the song, the great singers of our age were amazing actors, whether they're pop stars or musical theater stars. Find the arc of the song. You want to pull us in emotionally, but we want to see that transformation.
You can even do that in 16 to 32 bars if you choose the right song.
Exactly.
And I want to see you act the song. I will just highlight again what Steve said. I don't want you to park and bark because how we like talking. You're standing there and just singing. And I don't care. I don't care about what you're singing.
Right.
I want to care. Even if I'm writing things down and I'm not looking, I can hear it. I want to care. I can tell. You almost not watching if you actually are doing that.
And I would say to you, everyone in that room is paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
Even Curious Theater, we don't do musicals, but if you're acting that song, I'm like, now I want to really see what they're going to do with their monologue. Cool.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I can also be like, yeah, they have a great voice. That's cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yes.
Are there any I guess, is it a bad thing if in a monologue you are playing a character that in the show would have an opposite, and kind of imagining that they're there? Would it be bad if I'm playing, I don't know, someone like Cosmo Brown and I'm talking to John Lockwood and as if he's there, but obviously he's not? Or should I kind of twist the monologue so that I'm acting out to a supposed John Lockwood out in the audience?
Yes. You always want your focal point, and Jay said this earlier, out and over the audience.
Okay.
So, right, because let's say I have a chair here that's empty, and I'm playing this monologue to this person in the chair, I'm closing off.
Yeah.
So the part of what you want to do is send that amazing energy with the arc and the be yourself and all the things we said out over. You want to sort of give us, we want to feel it in our body, all that energy that you're putting out to that imaginary focus character. It could be your God, it could be whatever you want it to be if it's not a specific, monologue to another character, but always think of what you're doing focally to the back wall. I know it's weird and it's a strange thing that we ask you to do something we generally not going to ask you to do when we hire you to be in a play, but that's the thing. We want that authentic energy that's being pushed out.
Awesome.
Right. My name is Daniel. I'm from out of state. I moved here. And I have,
Welcome.
I have professional experience in theater outside. Though the pandemic kind of, threw that, but I'm a graduate of, Washington University in 2017. But I guess I worked in Shakespeare before, and I would love to, if I am selected as a candidate, to present a Shakespeare monologue. But I just want to know insight on if there's a Shakespeare company that's going to come in and sit in here. Because I don't mind doing the Shakespeare monologue just to do the monologue, because I love Shakespeare. But I just want to know if that's kind of a theater company or historically has come in and seen, actors do that.
Great. The question is, if someone is planning or desiring to do a Shakespearean monologue, is there a dedicated Shakespearean company that will be at the Unifieds this year? The answer is we don't know, because all the companies haven't signed up and different companies haven't even announced their seasons yet. So we don't know which companies will be doing Shakespeare or classical work, what I can tell you succinctly is that if you do it well, then do it. Because if you do it well, don't just do it in isolation. Do two pieces, right? Do some Shakespeare, do something else that shows us the contrast so that we get a sense of your range. If you only want to do one Shakespeare monologue, great. Tear it up and let everybody call you in to see what else you can do.
And I would say that last year we had, I don't know how much, but maybe 15-20% did Shakespeare, just because it's all, especially if you do two monologues, it's a great contrast just to show range. So that, as well as language and a million other things. Yeah, I was gonna say Shakespeare in the Wild is gonna be there, but I believe their audition process, and I'm representing them, will be over by the time we get to early May. So just, yeah.
Did you want to ask something? Okay. I'm going to take a couple questions from our online friends. There's two different questions about monologues, so I'm going to combine it. One is movie monologues, no. And also, if someone has done a one-person show that maybe has had a fringe run, can they do a monologue from that? Or should they only work with things that were not written by themselves? So should person do movie monologues? And how do you feel about pieces that you wrote, even if it has been performed in a fringe, for example? Well, how do y'all feel?
First, choose your material wisely. Make sure the material represents you for the artist you are, the journey, where you are in your journey today. You have 2.5 minutes to shine. Make the best use of that 2.5 minutes. I feel fairly strongly, and I don't represent everyone. Our preference is not for movie monologues. It is not the world of theater. We all love movie. We love powerful storytelling. Save your movie monologue for your fantastic movie audition that's going to come up. But we want to know that you understand the world of theater and that you can, live in that space. And I just think it's important. I don't necessarily mind a one-person show if you wrote it and it has been at Fringe. I think that's great. I think that might be an opportunity to also be prepared to show us opposites. So I would encourage, if you choose to do something from your piece that was in Fringe, great. I think use your time to also give us something completely opposite that is, a piece that folks might be familiar with. So we get to see sort of the breadth of your range and capacity. That's my 2 cents.
Anything you want to add?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, sorry. I totally agree with Jada 100%. But I just wanted to highlight, not every director is the same. I completely agree with Jada. I don't, because I'm auditioning for you to be in a play or a musical. So I would love it if you pick something from a play or a musical, because that's what we're doing. And knowing the world of theater, I totally agree with that. But not, some directors don't really care. It's all fine. I mean, if you do it really well, then maybe that's great. Your own material, I would just caution you. Yeah, if it's brilliant and it's an amazing thing and it shows you, I think that's fine. I would absolutely want you to make sure you had some other good, whether it's a theater teacher or your friends that know theater, take a look at that. Just make sure that it's not super self-serving. And I only say that because I've seen some original monologues that did not work in an audition. So just make sure that showing range like Jay said. Okay. Do you have anything on that?
Maybe. Okay. I was planning on moving on. I was like, wait, what? Here's what I would say. More often than not, when you do a piece that you wrote, it isn't as good as the best works that are out there. That's what I'm going to say. Now, there are exceptions to every rule, but I'm going to say in a majority, when people, and I've seen so many auditions when people have written something, and I can tell you the first thing that happens is all the producers go, they wrote that. It is immediate, and it takes us out as opposed to, ooh, they wrote that? Because there are actors who are also writers, and they have written amazing works for themselves, but we also need to see you be able to interpret something that you didn't craft. And so if you're able to do both, we're in love. If you can only do one, and our company isn't hiring you to create a piece for yourself, then you've told us that you may not be a person for us on our journey. That's what I would say. We have a couple things that I want to bring in. That was one that we just covered. We had some questions about resumes earlier. And so I want to go ahead and ask this question. What's the most important element of a theatrical resume? And any advice, although y'all gave some earlier, about good headshots? What makes a headshot stand out for you? Perhaps is a better way of phrasing it. And what do you want to see on a resume?
When I pull a resume as a music director, I want to see your experience. And I don't mean what you did in kindergarten. I mean relevant experience. Although I acted in kindergarten, it was great. And I want to see your range. And I don't want you to say I'm a soprano or I'm a tenor. For me, that doesn't tell me much. I want to actually know like C4 to A5 or something or whatever. I want to know that because most music directors should know what that range would be. And your range should be what you actually would sing in public. I've asked that question a lot. It's like you have this note appears your high note. Would you sing that in public? And a lot of people say, no, I wouldn't do that. Then don't put it on there. Because then if you put it on there, I assume and hope and will listen for that range that you're putting on there. So that's my little pet peeve about that. But I think that experience that you have on there, I want to see who you've worked with. I want to see what roles you've done. That kind of thing. So for me, the experience piece and your education and special skills, but first thing I look at is the voice, and then I look at the experience of who you've worked with. So I don't know what you would say.
I mean, I think I would say the same for theater. Put your most recent work there. The theater you worked at, who was the director. We want to know that, and then go backwards from there. We also look at training. So you don't have to give us every single teacher of your training, but like if you graduated somewhere, great. Let's say you didn't graduate and you're happen to be auditioning for the theater, maybe not these for the Colorado Theater Guilds. We still want to see, some people will list, oh, I took the intensive down at Denver Center and here was the instructor. Like that's helpful information for us, right? We as we look at our resume.
Or some special class on rapier, or stage combat, things like that, because we also cast with things that might have those particular needs.
Do not put something on your special skills that you cannot actually do. I am the director who reads all the special skills. And I go, oh, it shows you can beatbox? That's cool. Let's hear it.
Yep. I love to do that. It's like, oh, you said
all the time.
Yeah, it's cool.
So it's just like Betty said before, like don't put stuff on there that's not true for you and or that you're not willing to do in public. Because I am the person, I do it every time. I will call on it.
Yep.
Someone told me they can roll their tongue. Cool, let me see. I'll make it up. I'm gonna come a little closer, right?
Yeah. And I'll make you sing it. I'll ask you to sing it. And if you can't, it's like, well, then there you go. Yeah, no, it's fun to do that. I love doing that.
I want to ask this question because I think this one is especially important because illness continues to be around. What should an actor do if they're ill but not contagious for their audition? Should they tell the auditor?
One.
I like this question.
I mean, I don't know. I don't want to sound mean, but also it's part of taking care of yourself. So you just heard all of us say, we're rooting for you and we want you to be your best self. That means you also knowing who you are and your capabilities. I don't know about you. If I'm sick, I don't feel good. I'm grumpy and I'm in a bad mood. So I would encourage sorry you're sick and look for opportunities to go audition for the company specifically if they have that. And then certainly audition the following year. We want you to be your best self. And even if it's a little bit of a cough, or a tickle in the throat, the second you go to say that first line or sing that first stanza, that's going to come into play and it's going to minimize your ability to shine at your best.
I would add, if you choose to come and do that, I kind of don't want to hear that you're sick. I don't, and I'm not trying to be me, it's just me. It just goes back to the apology thing. I don't want you to apologize for what you're doing. And hopefully you're not so sick that you would need, if you're that sick, I'm totally with Jada, then don't do that. Let's figure out something else. Go to the company auditions, that kind of thing. But I don't want to hear the apology. I want you to just give us your best. If you chose to be there, give us what you have. That's just me. And remember, this is just our opinions. Other people might have a totally different opinion on that.
Yeah, I don't have a totally different opinion. I mean, I would say for the unifieds, you should not say anything.
Yeah.
I personally don't mind, especially if it's a musical. And your voice isn't what your voice is going to be for performance. And I'm trying to really figure all that out. I don't have a problem, especially if it's in that initial audition. It's a private space. You saying, I'm sorry, I've got a cold. My voice is a little funky. That's fine. But yes, I mean, in general, you're probably best to not say it unless you think it is affecting.
Yeah, and I've had people say it. I've worked with Betty. We've had that happen. I actually was thinking more of this particular audition, but we've had that. And I do want to know that because we're trying to figure out, the puzzle pieces of how is this going to work? And can this person really sing this piece that we're looking at in the show? And so then it is helpful information. So.
Just a quick clarifying question about like your range. So you essentially just want us to write down what we're most comfortable singing, like what we would be willing and able to do in a show or
right, like your lowest note.
Solo in a show down center.
For the people who are watching from home, the question is just going back to the musical question in terms of range. What exactly should be put on that resume? Is it only what we're comfortable singing? What exactly should we put down? What I would like to see as a music director, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you direct those too. I would like to see the lowest note that you could sing, center, like you said, center stage to the back of the house where grandma is, and you want her to hear, and there's no mic, and the top note, and I want to see what that is. So much musical theater, the newer things out there are so belty and so range specific. Sometimes it's hard if I don't have that. And if we see it, so many people, I want to know, I'll make notes on this range thing and that kind of thing. Well, I want to hear this, see where he could go or where she could go. So that's what I personally want to see.
Yeah, I think if you're a musical person, that's a great advice. I see a lot of resumes that don't have that. They'll say, right, soprano or alto. But that's great because then the musical director knows, usually if we get a musical property, a lot of times it'll have, this character has this range. So then we know, oh yeah, great, it'll fit perfect.
Yeah, because if you're called back and there's a high part, I will sing that. I will have you sing that because that's what I want to make sure you can do, for example. So I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I just want to make sure we answered the person. I think we answered the resume question. I'm not sure we answered the headshot question. So I just wanted to circle back. So thanks for your patience. I think, a good headshot, and there are a ton of fabulous headshot photographers in town. So if you're in need of a headshot, do your research, check their websites. Again, I wasn't really being facetious. I really don't want to see a headshot that's your friend who took it in your backyard. The background of the headshot should not be distracting to you, right? You should be front and center. Some people nowadays are giving us like the standard headshot that's them and classic, and then on the back are giving a different look, still them, not a character, but in a smaller little block. And I'm really liking that. It allows me to see sort of like, oh, look at that, and you often are taking a couple different shots when you're doing your headshot. So it's sort of just like your piece, whether it's your song or your monologues, you're choosing things that are opposite so you can show folks all the different pieces of who you are. You want to make sure, I think Steve mentioned this before, your headshot's new, not too touched up. So it's not like, what's that?
Glamour shot?
Glamour shots. Yeah.
Remember the day of the glamour?
Glamour shots. Or it's not like your high school prom shot that has the standard pose, right?
Or your high school yearbook,
Right. So something that's you, that gives lets us see you and you shining through.
And I like the ones that you can see, back to what Betty said, of joy. It's warm, it's inviting, it invites me in. I'm like, oh wow, this is lovely. There's a twinkle, yeah. There's something that makes me want to know more about you. So that the pictures can draw you into. And I believe nowadays are all color for the most part, unless I ask. Yeah.
98%.
Well, almost,
And there was for years a big debate between like the standard shot, now the new landscape. I think people have adjusted to that. So I don't think there's any hard and fast rules around that. Again, it's your business card. So what headshot shows you best?
Because when we're casting, we can't remember all those faces. So that picture is very, very important to us.
Yeah, just a quick format question on how a resume and headshot together should be presented. Did you want it stapled onto the photos itself?
We have no live materials. Okay, go ahead.
I know, I forget to.
The question is,
Sorry.
when you are auditioning live, and they ask you to bring a picture and resume, how do you want it connected? Do you want it stapled? Do you want two separate things? What do you want?
I would want it stapled at the top and the bottom. If you just do the corner and it falls apart and all of a sudden in 100 headshots and things, we don't know where it went or who it goes with, usually it wouldn't fall off that way for me. I mean, just easier.
I would say the same, stapled, and on the same direction. So I'm not,
Oh, yeah.
I have to flip it. That's happened a couple times. And I will just say also, outside of, I don't know what other theater companies are doing, outside of the Unifieds, which you should all be participating in, we also will have auditions, and sometimes we have people submit it online, the headshot and resume. Still be prepared, have an extra one in your bag, because oftentimes my life is ridiculous and I don't have the drive in front of me, or our internet is not working and I can't pull it up. So I might in that moment say, do you have a headshot and resume? And I can't tell you how many times, well, I submitted it online. Yep, great, thank you so much. And what happens then at the end of 2 days, and I've got a pile, right? I'm focusing on this pile first and foremost. It's just how my brain works. It's not a personal thing at all. And then I might be able to go back to the drive. But just so you guys know that when you're heading into, if you're auditioning for specific companies, they may do something similar, and that the physical is very helpful.
Yep, and a couple of copies, although for this particular audition, we have no actual materials. It's all digital. So we'll capture that in your application. You don't need to resend anything unless you were to update it. We've got all that material, so it's sort of an easy one-stop. But yeah, stapled. In the old days, we would sometimes glue them to the back. So that's an acceptable way to do, but one thing that's got, headshot on one side and resume on the other. That's great.
One of our friends online has asked a question, and then I will go to you. What is advice from this panel on overcoming stigma during auditions? The participant is First Nations, where there's an extreme scarcity in theater. It's a lot different of a burden than just normal anxiety in an audition. This person is addressing historically marginalized, ignored, and excluded performers. What do you do as an actor who's auditioning with that when you walk in the room?
Yeah, such a good question.
It's a fabulous
And such a big, really big question. I mean, I do think it still goes back to the choice of your material, so that it's something you're super comfortable with, so you can navigate the jitters that are going to show up and any of the sort of concerns about the space that you are in. If there is something you need to help support, we've heard our CTG friends say, put that in the notes in the application as well. The other place I'd go is use the waiting room wisely. And I'll be real truthful. Here's what I mean by that. A lot of times, this is a really fantastic artistic community. Many people, know each other. Many people see others' work. We support each other. We lift each other up. And so sometimes we come into the waiting room and there's people we haven't seen in a long time, and people want to chat and hang out. I don't do that at all. Because I can't, because I'm so in my nerves and my brain is thinking that I need to carve out space for myself. And so I think using the waiting room wisely for you. Is it that you need to take some deep breaths? Is it that you need to do jumping jacks so your energy is ready to go, right before you go on, so that the waiting room is not distracting you, or that you're being pulled into any kind of I don't know, conversations or
energy.
anything like
We'll
that,
get
or
the energy
energy
that's-
that feels weird, coming in with your best self. Again, we are rooting for you, and everything that you are bringing to the table. I'm not sure I'm actually addressing the questions.
I have something. You gave me a thought.
Yeah.
This is what I'll say. The Colorado theater landscape has changed a lot in the 11 years I've been here. But I know it still happens because you all keep telling me it does. So as a Black woman, I cannot tell you how many times I walked into a theater space and no one said hi to me. Now they know me, right? But in the beginning, no one knew me. No one said hi, no one smiled. All I saw were people who did not look anything like me. I remember the weight, and it is heavy, and no one can tell you it isn't. But what I can also tell you is I knew I was good. And I did exactly what these incredible people said, and I prepared, and I told myself that whether anything happens or not, I can leave feeling good about myself if I could just manage to show up. That was my goal. It is not easy. It may not be fair, but it is the job that we have. And so I would say, prepare yourself, take care of your heart, your mind, and your spirit, and remember, you love doing this. So do what you love for 2.5 minutes. And that may be more than you'll get to do for the next few weeks. So enjoy every moment.
I would just add too, thank you, Betty, for that. If there is something that happens in that moment, I would encourage maybe not to take the choice in that moment. If you've not auditioned yet, to take that on, because that is a huge lift, right? I'll give you a perfect example. I walk into the room and somebody calls me by another Black actor's name. Still happens, just happened the other day. And in that moment, I'm gonna feel all my feels and I'm like, how dare them, right? And I wanna correct them. But if I'm about to go show my best self, that's not a space that I can take on, right? Now, who I am or who you are, after your fantastic audition, you may choose to then say, hey, I just want to let you know, right? And have that moment with that person. Or you can provide feedback to the Colorado Theater Guild team, right? They've already demonstrated, they are paying attention and they are listening. So if something does happen that you feel like, hey, I couldn't address this in the moment, but this happened, they need to know about it, and your feedback is critically important.
All right, last question.
Yeah, is there such a thing as too intense for an audition? Like say with the context and the text of your piece. Is there too intense?
The question is there such a thing as too intense? Is there a place where actors should not go in an audition space? I'll let everybody answer that, because I bet y'all have some stories.
Yeah, I think there is. Yeah, I think there's a too intense. I've seen some too intense. But you have to, again, you're trying to make that character arc, whatever it is. I mean, if it's a natural build and the end of the monologue is some large thing where you're angry or screaming or whatever, that can work. But if it's always, the thing that when you say that, I'm thinking of some auditions where someone is very tense. Sometimes that nervousness can make it even worse. So you're very tight and closed. So yeah, I would encourage you to make sure that whatever the piece is, there is some art. If you have intensity, that's great, but I would be working up to that, or maybe it's the opposite. Again, it starts intense and relaxes. That can work too. So just be careful that it ends up being kind of one thing.
And I think sometimes people do that because they're trying too hard. I only have 2.5 minutes. How do I do all this in only 2.5 minutes? Or 2 minutes and 15 seconds. And then that intensity can just come simply possibly from that as well. And that's going back to being prepared and knowing the arc and knowing your piece so well that you don't allow that to happen. And what does happen fits within the scope of the piece you're working on or that you're performing. So I've seen it in singing too. That's all just, I'm like, whoa, there is an arc in there, and it can be dynamically and that sort of thing. So
yeah, I would agree with everything, right? You want to take us on the journey with you. You want to invite us in. And if it's all one note, whether that's here, right? We can't be in that journey. We're back there going, ooh, whoa, 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 right? It's coming at us too much. We don't mind the range of emotion, but we need to be able to see that range. We can also tell when the monologue has control of you, when the monologue is in front of you and you're actually chasing it. We don't want to see that either. So it's really about the choice of your material and how you prepare with intention and specificity.
Yeah, I'll just
go ahead.
add on that, because what I would say is intensity exists and we have to be aware of what our piece says.
Yes.
Because if we believe you and you've just cussed us out for 2.5 minutes, we may have a feeling about it. If you tell us racial epithets, if you talk about raping people, these are different things that can cause responses in us because we're human as well as auditors. And there's an intensity to those things. So be mindful that what may be common for you may not necessarily have the same response in others. And we live in a time where it's more polarized than ever. I'd ask you to consider that when choosing your piece, because you want us to lean in and want to spend time with you. Does your piece allow us to do that, is the question that I would ask in terms of intensity or choices.
Especially in this kind of environment where you're trying to show us contrast with a basic neutral self, because you don't know, Jada may be looking for people in a drama or a comedy. Leanne and I may be looking for a musical, or I may be directing. You don't know what that is. So you're going to find that, but you don't want to make a choice that is so specific that, like Betty said, it's going to kind of push us away, because we are going to partially judge you by the material you pick. That's because we don't have a whole lot of things. We've got your resume, we've got your picture, we know a little bit about you, but that's going to be a big thing. The other thing I would say is emotion. Just be careful if you're very emotionally available and you can cry easily and all of that. I would be cautious about leaning into that. There's great advice that, you never want to release the emotion, because if you release emotion too much, you're going to push the audience away. You want to kind of get right up to the edge of it. But yeah, that's another, I think, common mistake that then can lead to that too intense, someone sobbing that has to be helped off stage. That we don't want to see that too, because we're worried that you might be in a delicate state and not ready to be in a rehearsal room.
You all have amazing questions, and we are so grateful to each and every one of you. We are going to close this out and bring Abner Genesee back.
Join me in thanking our incredible theater professionals, Steve Wilson, Leanne Sherlong, and what's her name again?
I'm gonna say
I got that joke from way back.
Put some respect on that name.
The inimitable Miss
Yes.
Thank you.
Wonderful play running at Curious right now.
Incredible play, which I just saw.
Go see
So
it.
you need to come see this play.
That's so nice.
Amazing.
And it's also true.
Thank you to the Aurora Fox Performing Arts Center for providing this space. Thank you for this incredible team, this workshop committee, T. David and Leah, and I see Lori in the back there. We're going to have a mixer with refreshments directly after. We'll wheel into here, so you're welcome to join that and ask questions of our professionals here. But thank you so much. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on May 4th and 5th.
I love that you brought notes, I brought notes. I mean,
I'll be sure for both.
Okay. What's your range? I want to know.
I'll